Hi, everyone, and we're here as the organizers of the Fundaesliga Quiz League, here to explain a bit more about the league for all of you to understand what this league entails and how we will go forward with it, and why we thought of starting a league like this for all of you. Uh, a lot of you have come up with questions as well, which are pertinent questions and need answering or explanation. So we're here to do all of that for you today. I'm Shrestha, and joining me today is Arjo, who will help
Hey
explain
guys.
these things. So the first thing people were asking us is, why are we coming up with a format like this, or why are we looking to introduce a format like this in Indian quizzing? Now there are many reasons for it. And Arjo, I'd like you to take up that question and sort of give us a run through of why a format like the Fundaesliga or the Mimir format would work so well for us in today's pandemic-ridden environment.
Thank you, Shrestha. So as we have kind of gone about informing all of you, what we feel strongly is that this has Fundaesliga Quiz League. It has the potential to be the biggest experiment in Indian quizzing in a long time. So we are here to tell you why we felt the need for a league of this feature and give you some compelling reasons to sign up in case you haven't. We know a lot of you already have, and we are closing registrations pretty soon as well. But we still want to kind of let you in on our philosophy and ethos behind starting this league at all. Yeah. So as you can sense, I don't know if my sweat is visible, but the league, it promises to give you a sense of an adrenaline rush that you probably miss, you already miss because offline quizzing is AWOL. This is as close as it can get in an online universe to have the same kind of adrenaline rush, while of course you are participating from the safety of your home. Yeah? It's a brand new format that has elements of bounce and pounds that most of you are familiar with. However, very importantly, this format moves systematically away from some aspects of bounce and pounds that tend to privilege more established results. More on that in a little. Yeah? Another compelling reason, there is little amount of seating order luck in this format, yeah, which tends to, in a lot of live quizzes, affect the fortunes, affect the outcomes of teams that are, close on the heels of the teams running away with it. That's something that this format, by its very design, almost eliminates. If you've seen the demonstration friendlies that we have uploaded on our YouTube video, this sort of unique, equitable aspect of the format makes it very clear for you. Yeah? We are here to ask you, why would you want to spend 3 to 4 hours of your precious time on a weekend on, say, a 30 to 35 question quiz with the numerous hassles of coordinating with teammates on WhatsApp and other online channels, when you can attempt a 64 question quiz on a weekday, evening, or night of your convenience? Yeah? We are here to normalize that quizzing doesn't need to wait for a weekend. In an offline universe, all of us would love to travel to a weekend fest. Both of us miss it dearly, but that's pretty far away, isn't it? So in the absence of that adrenaline, in the absence of that wait for a fest, we are here to offer you something that you can pretty much access from the comfort of your rocking chair or your sofa or your bed on a weekday of your choice. Yeah. Speaking of using other channels of communication, we have to address the elephant in the room. The format, almost by design and a mandate from us, the organizers, requires your both hands to be visible on the screen at all points in time during the game. We, in our demonstration friendlies, if you have noticed, have impressed upon the reader as well as the participants to reinforce this as a rule from us, the organizers, because we feel pretty strongly about cheating in online quizzes. And it's something that this format almost eliminates by virtue of its A, fast-paced nature, and B, the necessity, the mandate of keeping your hands on screen at all points in time. Yeah, we know cheating is a plague in the online quizzing environment, which is why this format should be a breath of fresh air for all of you who have been disillusioned with it. Yeah. Another important sort of compelling reason, as we like to put it, is that when it comes to solo quizzes in this country, or even the world for that matter, most of them tend to take on the slightly non-persuasive form of a whole examination format. You open a booklet and you flip page after page and you attempt an exam effectively over 1.5 hours. It's even worse for people who tend to be slower, absorbent readers. So all of these are some of the downsides of written solo quizzes that a lot of us are familiar with. Yeah, most such quizzes for solo contestants or lone contestants unfortunately take on that format. Yeah, here you are competing as a solo quizzer. However, the nature of the format with its 45-minute or 50-minute ceiling, that's how long the typical set will take. Yeah? The fact that questions are coming on screen, the fact that you are competing against others in the same sort of solo quiz setup, that's very unique. The only 2 or 3 quizzes for solo quizzes in the country that do happen in a live competitive format, unfortunately or fortunately, it's still the same top 8 to 10 quizzers who end up qualifying and making it to the finals. All of us, the rest of the quizzing janta, the mere mortals, tend to miss out on the thrill, the excitement of competing in a solo final or a semi-final for that. Yeah? We are here to change that. Yeah. On a related note, on the note of missing out from the thrill and so on, if you are either starting off as a quizzer, yeah, if you are in high school or college, or even as an open quizzer, you are finally kind of taking on quizzing as a hobby or a passion, or if you're keen on testing your mettle against players of a caliber, either higher than yourself or at your own level, there is no better way to embark on the journey than in this card that you're offering. Yeah? Over an 11-week span, you will have the opportunity of exposing yourself to around 750 questions set by a team that includes the 2 of us and 9 other extremely hungry question setters who want to test you on things that matter to them, that matter to all of us, that are of consequence. Yeah? And these questions that we're talking about, the 750 odd questions, they're set across 8 broad topics, which makes it a relatively more level playing field. Something again we'll deep dive in a jiffy. So to sum up our compelling reasons, where else can you compete against your quizzing idols and role models, but importantly, still have a shot at upstaging them? Because if you've seen the demo friendlies, it's really anyone's game. FLQL, Fundaesliga Quiz League, thus promises to create a relatively borderless quizzing universe and a borderless quizzing experience if you choose to sign up. So what are you waiting for? Sign up.
Thanks, Arjo. That's quite well explained, and I hope those of you watching sort of get a window into the world what we're trying to create, and we know that many of you already have embraced it, and we hope all of you who are maybe on the fence now come to our side. So, Arjo, there were many questions which people had about the format, the league, how this thing might work. You have a list of them, so why don't we go ahead and sort of explain that to our our watchers.
These questions have all come from either participants who have already signed up or those who are still sitting on the fence. So listen very closely to this session. Most of your questions will get answered. Yeah. First question, Shresh, the one that is highest in the pecking order as well. How exactly does a Fundaesliga quiz league work?
So that's a 2-part question, Arjo. The first is that there are games with 4 people involved, which all of you who have watched the YouTube videos or have maybe even read the FAQ document are already aware that the league works on a modified Mimir format. Usually the Mimir format is a 60-question quiz, but we have modified it to bring our own element of differentiation into this. So there'll be 64 questions where each of you, all 4 people in a game, can participate in. Across the week, all players in the league, in the game week, will face the same set of questions, and you will often play people of your level, barring the first week, where what we'll discuss even more in a bit. Now that's about the game. As for the league, what we have is all of you will be on a leaderboard. We as organizers will maintain a rankings leaderboard, and that ranking will determine the eventual results of the league. But the good thing here is that these rankings are from all players, from the top to the bottom. And the way the league is set up is that after the first week of games, which will be randomized, from second week onwards, you will play people of your level. Now, what do you mean by your level? People have been asking. Basically, from week 2, we'll be basically setting up the randomized draw according to the leaderboard. That means if you have come third in the week 1, in week 2, you will play against others who have also come third. That ensures that not only are you not out of your depth, but also that you are playing against people you can actually beat. We don't want anyone to get demoralized by this quizzing structure or always play people who are much better than them and sort of lose the fun of quizzing. We are following the format which is often used in chess tournaments around the world, where everybody plays the equal number of games, but the competitors you play against depends on how well you are doing at a league at that point. Now, some of you might think that you might be better off playing against weaker players and maybe racking up wins and being higher up the points table. But what happens in this format is as the weeks progress, you will eventually find your place. If you rack up 5 wins in your first 5 weeks, awesome. But in week 6, maybe you will end up losing because you have finally found your level, and then you'll drop a tier below perhaps. And then week 7, you again find your position in the league by playing people of your level. So at all times after week 1, you are promised to play a game which challenges you, does not demoralize you, and allows you to rack up wins even if you are not confident yourself of your own abilities. So for the first 8 weeks, we'll be playing league matches. League matches based on your matches being drawn according to the leaderboard. And thereafter, what we'll do is we'll have knockouts from week number 9. How the knockouts going to happen? Basically, the number of players who play after the first 8 weeks will be divided into tiers. In each tier, there will be 16 players playing. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. We'll go down to as many tiers as we need. And that's where we'll have quarterfinals in week 8. So nobody gets eliminated for the first 8 weeks. In fact, for the first 9 weeks. And in the 9th week, we have quarterfinals with the 16 players in each tier. So in Tier 1, positions 1, for example, 1, 9, 15, 16 will play each other. 2, 7, 8, 14 will play each other, and so on. And so in the other tiers as well. From there, half of the people will be eliminated. Top 2 from each of these quarterfinals will move forward to the semifinals. From where we'll have the top 2 from each of the semifinals moving on to the final. And eventually we will crown the tier champions in week 11. This means essentially that this quiz is not meant just for the top 16 players who might form tier 1. This league allows everybody to sort of have a chance at winning a trophy, and even for you to understand what tier you really stand in, so that the next time you can aspire to maybe go 1 tier or 2 tiers up.
As for that, Shresh, that kind of puts the structure of the league and the format in perspective. Second question that has come from a lot of participants or interested participants. What exactly are the rules on time allotted per question?
So that is one of the things which we have a deep focus on, and that is we want the quiz to be in jiffy. We don't want to take too much of your time in a week. In fact, this format will not take more than an hour for sure. It can even go as low as 45 minutes. And as we told you before, that getting 64 questions in an hour seems like a dream, but this dream is going to come true in this format. So the rules are quite simple. When it is your direct question, you get 30 seconds to answer the question. We have an automated scorecard, which many of you have seen in the demonstration games already. There's a timer on the automated scorecard as well, so you know exactly how much time you have to answer. If you cannot answer, or if you already put an answer, the questions pass, and on the pass, your opponents have just 5 seconds to answer. So if essentially, no question should take more than 45 seconds to be answered if you take 30 seconds plus 5 plus 5 plus 5.
Follow-up question, quick one. Given that these are the rules on time, are there any strategies with respect to managing time?
That's a great question, and as the competition gets heated up, strategies will come into play a lot. Well, yes. If you think that you do not know an answer to a question, it might be prudent for you to pass very quickly. Because even if you pass in your direct in, say, 5 seconds, that 30 seconds gets elapsed. Your opponents still get just 5 seconds. So that means your opponents maybe will have less time to think of an answer and maybe give a wrong answer or fail to answer. That might work in your benefit if you don't know an answer or you want to make a quick answer and you don't use up your 30 seconds, because the 30 seconds which you get on your direct, so do your opponents, unless and until you say something.
So quite a few things to think about if you want to think about.
But I do want to mention that you cannot pass just like that. You can pass only after the reader has completed reading the question. For those of you wondering if you can hear something or not on the online internet space because of poor connectivity or so on, all questions will be pasted by the reader on your Zoom chat. So don't worry about if you cannot listen, but remember you can pass only after the question has been finished reading.
Another interesting question, how will ties be broken if there are any ties?
So ties could come into contention, and we understand that, but we will not be breaking ties in the league phase. We will break ties in the knockouts from weeks 9 to 11 because only 2 can go up from the quarters and semis, and of course there can be only 1 champion in the final. But in the league stage, there will be no tiebreakers. One thing worth mentioning here is that in every game, the idea is for you to come in the top two. If you come in the top two, you earn a win, a one win. So the idea is not to come first, but come the top two. Coming first or second, both have the same value in terms of wins. Although the person coming first will get 4 points, second will get 3 points, third will get 2 points, and fourth will get 1 point. Wins are the first scenario of us drawing people into different games. On the leaderboard, we will use these points and a few other factors as tiebreakers. But the idea is always to come first. There's a much greater benefit for you to come, not first, sorry, to earn one win. The idea is to always come first or second to collect that one win. And among that, if you can come first over second, that's even better. So ties will not be broken in the league stage. If the top two are tied, well, both get 1 point, and instead of 4 points and 3 points, they'll both get 3.5 points. If second and third are tied, then they both collect half wins because the one win for second place gets split between them, and each of them take 2.5 points, which is basically the half of 3 and 2. If the top three are tied, each collect 0.67 points, wins, which is basically 2 wins divided by 3, and each take 3 points each, which is basically 4 plus 3 plus 2 divided by 3. Similarly, if second, third, and fourth are tied, each take 0.33 wins and 2 points each. And if all 4 finish on the same points, which would make an amazing game, each of them take half a win and 2.5 points each. It seems quite complicated, but it's a simple math. We just add the points and we divide them by 2, or we add up the wins and we divide them by 2 or 3, depending on how many ties there are. But we will break ties on the leaderboard, and for that, the sequence for tie breaking will be wins. If that is tied, we will look at total points. If that is tied, we'll look at total directs answered. If that is tied, we'll look at the least attempts used. The person with the least attempt will be higher on the leaderboard. And if we still cannot break, we'll just do a virtual coin toss. For the knockouts, there's a tiebreaker, and the knockouts are not really important for the first 8 weeks, but just to explain, in the knockouts, if there are 2 people tied for, say, second place or first place, if the top 2 are tied, we don't need a tiebreaker in the quarters and semis. But in case we need to decide who's moving forward, a tiebreaker set will be read. The tiebreaker set, there are 2 sets of 3 questions each. In set 1, each player will be asked 3 questions while the other person is not on the Zoom call. Then the second person will be asked the same 3 questions, and whoever answers more will qualify into the next round. In case the first set of tiebreakers are also tied, we'll have a second set of tiebreakers. Same 3 questions, and hopefully that also breaks the tie. But if that does not break a tie, then we will have a further tiebreaker, which is a nearest to the bull guesstimate answer, where we will ask you a question which involves a number, and whoever is closer to the number, or even if we are completely on the bull, that person qualifies.
Next question. How does one schedule matches?
So that's a good question. I mean, that's one of the most important questions. So we are not telling you when you can schedule the match. That depends on you and the other 3 people who are playing the game with you. The first thing which you need to understand is that every Monday morning, the organizers will send out the list of draws of the games happening. Once you have the list, once you see who you're playing against, one of you folk can start a mail chain on email and contact each other and discuss when you want to play the game. You can schedule a game anytime between Monday 4 p.m. and Sunday 10 p.m. for a game week. There'll be a dedicated Excel sheet with email IDs and not numbers because privacy is important. And using those email IDs, you guys can contact each other and decide on a time. Once you decide on a time, there's a second Google form, which you fill up with the details. One of you takes the priority to fill it up. And as soon as you fill that up, we will know that the game is scheduled, and then a reader will get into place and a reader will read your game. One thing we want to say is, please be sensitive of the schedules of your co-participants and be as accommodating as possible. After all, we understand it's a quiz league where players are professionals with full-time jobs. Students might be juggling with classes, maybe internships. And so if you are slightly inconvenienced, we would like you to slightly adjust, but we leave it to your sense of good judgment when it comes to matters of scheduling. If you cannot find 4 people agreeing on a particular time for a match, email us and we'll try to solve that for you.
Perhaps the question with the highest number of people having asked this. So let's answer this one for all the curious people. How does one request for a leader? What is the role of it?
So you're right, that's a very crucial bit of this league. Just want to say that this league is all of your league. It will not be successful without your cooperation, and you guys have been very cooperative so far with your positive feedback, with your critical feedback, and those are completely appreciated. Without that, this league would fall apart. So to request for a reader, what you do is once you fill up the form, there's an Excel sheet which gets populated with all the details of the game. Then what happens is that anybody who wants to read a game can sign up to read that game. That person who signs up will then email all of you with a Zoom room link on that particular time, and that person will read the game for you. Now here, we are wondering, who are the readers? Well, the readers will come from you guys as well. We mandate that everybody reads at least one game in the whole season, and for every subsequent game that you read, we will be paying you money as a sort of thank you for your effort. So essentially, after you read the first game, which is a mandate for everyone to read at least one game, for every subsequent game you read, you will be paid rupees 100. Essentially, if you read 10 games, an open quizzer can play this league for free. And the good thing about reading a game, which we have all sort of come to learn playing online leagues, is that there's nothing like reading a game to eventually absorb the answer. So it's a great way for readers to also explore questions for a second time or a third time, and it's such a much better way for your memory to also learn what you have quizzed on. Remember that you cannot read unless you've already played a game. So essentially, the organizers will be reading the first few games of the week, and then from the people who have already played, you guys can read further games. The important thing here is that it's a lot about self-moderation and respecting the game. So we are pretty sure that those of you who do choose to read the game will not share the PPT or the document or the PDF with others till the end of the game week.
Thanks for that, because that question is particularly important and interesting because of the number of people who have expressed their desire to, and which is why they're keen on knowing how exactly does one volunteer to read for Fundaesliga. So that's very useful. Next question.
Go for it.
Last question, Shresh. What happens if a player doesn't show up for a match?
Well, we understand that a player may not show up for a match, but we don't think that will happen a lot. If someone is not showing up at your game time, email us. If you don't appear after 5 minutes, feel free to email us, and one of us will try to contact that player because we'll have their phone details. We can message them on WhatsApp or call them to remind them to come or to understand if they are not coming. If that communication chain also doesn't happen, after 15 minutes, the preferred option is to reschedule. We understand that reschedule might be tough for many of you because you have other plans to the week, but if these games are scheduled in the first half of the week, we suggest that you reschedule. If you absolutely cannot reschedule, then you move forward and play the game. We recommend that the match is played with 3 players after 15 minutes have passed. Now, one of you came up with a question that what happens, how does the questions work if there are only 3 players playing and not 4? Well, the quiz moves just as it is, but the player who is not there, that person's questions get passed to the next in line. After the moderator reads the questions, the question gets passed after 15 seconds, and then the others can answer the question. What this does is it ensures that everybody gets all 64 questions, and makes the quiz more coherent than simply skipping a quarter or half of the questions. But there is a penalty for a no-show because otherwise people might not turn up quite often. Players will receive 0 points for the first no-show, vis-a-vis 1 coming fourth if you come fourth. And 2 no-shows in the competition means you cannot take part in the knockouts. Of course, we understand that might be an emergency. If you do have an emergency and you inform us about your inability to attend in advance, we are very happy to reconsider this. That's basically all the questions you guys had, and hopefully we've been able to answer all of them. In case there are still some questions which you don't have clarity on, feel free to comment maybe on the bottom of this Facebook post or this group you are in, and we will answer that for sure. Don't forget to join the Facebook group and page because that's where we will discuss all your queries, come up with analysis of every week's questions, which questions were tough, which questions were easy, who answered the most difficult questions, who got a lot of questions on a particular topic right. All that analysis will also, by the way, bring in different idea, different sort of aspect to the sport of quizzing, which we haven't explored before in Indian quizzing. So Arjo, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, one important one is that we will be doing a live draw for week 1. The draw will happen next week. We're looking at Friday night for the draw. And we'll be releasing the draw at the end of the live session only for week 1, right? A couple of days before the first game starts. Going forward, starting from week 2, the Monday morning email that Shresh was talking about will typically release the draws for that week. Yeah. So that's all from us on this particular segment of answering your questions. Like Shresh said, if you have further questions, please reach out to us. You know who we are. You can join the Fundaesliga Facebook group, post your questions there. We're more than happy to take them on, answer them, and let's hope to see all of you play Fundaesliga Quiz League.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.